everyone, it's Jenny. Welcome to another process video. So I'm just showing you some little bits and pieces that I've used for this layout. So I've got some Dear Lizzie Lucky Charm collection and also a piece from Amy Tan Stitched. And so all I'm doing here is cutting down this white piece of paper a little bit because I want it to have some of that beautiful floral there peeking out from underneath. So this layout is it was a part of a challenge for the Hip Kit Club, and it was a little bit different for most of us, but it was one that a lot of us really enjoyed. And so basically it's a predominantly white on white layout, and then we actually cut the layout up and make it fit into a Project Life piece. Or we can not stick it in the Project Life piece and just stick it back together and actually have a look at what it looks like. So it was, I think the original one was done by Wilna Furstenberg. If you want to go and check out her channel, and you might see her layout. And so a lot of us attempted to do that sort of thing. So there I have cut all of those flowers out from that Amy Tan Stitched collection because I want to use those on this page. And here I am. I was going to cut up the piece of paper before I even started. And then I thought, now if I cut it up, how am I going to actually put some of these elements on the page and know exactly where I'm going to cut them? So I've got a plastic sleeve there from the Project Life. I don't know what design it is, and all I'm doing is having a bit of a play and a bit of a look at where I want to add things and where my cut lines would be. So I knew that I wanted the cut lines to actually be on the elements that I'm sticking on the page. So I didn't actually want to cut the page up and be safe and put the elements in the sections that weren't actually cut. I did actually want to cut through the photo and cut through the embellishments and actually have them on the page where I could cut them. So I had to figure out where I was going to place everything first so that I knew where I was going to cut, because I didn't want to go and cut straight down the middle of my daughter's face. That would just be wrong. But I knew that this photo would have to be sliced somehow. So that's all I'm doing at the moment, is having a bit of a play. And I have lined up the photo, what's it called? Ladies, I can't talk. It's the end of the day and I am having trouble thinking. So I lined up the Project Life plastic sheet with my cardstock, and I have done the first cut, which is straight down the middle and along in thirds. So I know that basically, this is where my stuff is going to go. But probably I shouldn't have cut it already, and I should have just glued down and then cut. But, I didn't think like that first of all. I actually thought I needed to cut it, but, hey, it worked out in the end. So all I am doing is having a bit of a play with where things are going to go, and I pull out this collection here that I hadn't played with for a long time, or hadn't actually touched at all, and I'm cutting out these jars, and I'm going to make it look like I've got these Amy Tan flowers poking out of the little jars. So I'm sticking with the colours for this one are the white on whites, and I'm using the aqua and creams, and the flowers have got that beautiful peach and yellow sort of look to them. So just playing at this stage where I might like to put things, and that circle element there is a cut file from the Silhouette store, so I cut that out on my Silhouette and I backed it with a white piece of cardstock that I ran through the Cricut with an embossing folder, so it's got a white on white pattern inside those circles. So that was just something that had been laying around on my desk for a while, so I decided that I would use that. And it's coming together, except I realised I needed to put the photo down to the bottom, otherwise the cut line was going to be straight in my daughter's face and that wasn't going to work. So I'm trying to, so you can see there, if I cut that, that's going to go straight in her eye. So that's not going to work. I know that I need to bring the plastic down a little bit more or up a little bit more. So lots of fiddling at this stage and trying to get that to work, that circle element, and I do decide later on that I need to just cut that up a little bit. So here I go. So I'm just cutting it out, and then I'm able to add that to a few different spots on the layout, and especially once you know, the layout has been cut in its sections as well. So just cutting off the little pieces that are not needed anymore and placing a couple of flare in the center of those. So I've got some cream flare there, and I think that they are Studio Calico flares, but I couldn't be sure. They were just in my stash. So I'm just having a look again. I keep bringing this Project Life plastic out just to make sure that I'm not cutting her face, and I'm really desperately trying to get it up a little bit higher so it's a little bit more centered on the page, but the cut line just is not working. So I do end up bringing it down lower and being satisfied with that. So I do cut through her, but just not at her eyes. So when you look at the page, you know, it doesn't look abnormal at all. And so I've got that little butterfly there, the 3D butterfly. I think that was from a Heidi Swapp collection. So I wanted to add that to the page as well and give that a little bit of dimension. And I've got those jars on there. And you saw me at the very start, I just had some glimmer mist and I just gave a little sprinkle of colour with that, and that was a sort of, it looks like it's a tea sort of colour, maybe with a little pink tone to it. So here I am, I'm actually committing to sticking some of these elements down. So this is where I realised, maybe I shouldn't have actually cut it apart yet, and I glue it back together. So I actually glue some of the pieces back together so that I can work on them, and then I use my craft knife, I think, to cut it all apart. So it was, you know, it was fun. Like I said, it was fun. Felt wrong cutting straight down the photo, felt wrong cutting through all of my little embellishment areas when I had spent you know, time cutting them out and sticking them down, but you know, it was really effective in the end. So just putting some double-sided sticky tape, because I realised that I shouldn't have perhaps cut it apart yet, and I'm just putting it back together, and I turn it over and go, oh, hang on a minute, I've got the cards in that top section in the wrong place. So of course this double-sided tape, you know, it's pretty forgiving, but it leaves a sticky residue everywhere. So I just need to make sure that I actually take that off, and so it doesn't stick to my craft mat, and then just add a little bit more, and there you go, all back together again. So now I can see exactly where I want to put things, and I can start putting the page back together. And then I realized that that butterfly was actually on a line. One of the silver metal part of the pin would actually be smack bang on one of the lines, and I wouldn't be able to cut through it. So I end up just taking the butterfly off the paperclip part, and I just use the butterfly. So here I am just drawing a faint line so I can see exactly where the lines are going to be. And of course, there's one straight down the middle of the section in the middle a line down the middle, but there isn't on the last card. So just making sure that I've got those lines intersected at the right place. And then I've just got some little pieces there that I cut from the silhouette as well. So we've got happy, and that goes on the jars, and beautiful goes above the photo, and love goes on the flowers. So I like the repeating of words, and they're both in a nice font, and I think that they go well together. So what am I doing? Having a bit of a look. I'm happy with that, and I think I'm just unclogging my glossy accents so that I can stick the flare down, and just trying to work out where the flare is going to go so that I can still cut the lines, cut between the lines. So right there, the flare is smack bang on a line, so I might have to move that a little bit later so that I can cut through and then just stick it back on. And these paper flowers are all beautiful, so they look really sweet all cut up on a page. So I know that a lot of people used them in that way, and it's really nice when you get a beautiful piece of paper that you can fussy cut and add some dimension to the page and use it in a way that, you know, perhaps wasn't intended to use it, and just use it as a bit of a sprinkling throughout the page. Lots of fun, and fussy cutting is quite therapeutic, or it can be anyway. I quite like the fussy cutting, and you know, might sit in front of the TV with my little tray or something and just cut them whilst watching telly or talking with the family. So you know, it works quite well. So I just used a little bit of the Tombow Mono Aqua to glue the words down, and a little bit of both for these paper elements that I'm sticking down now. And some of them, as you can see there, have foam tape so that there is a little bit of dimension to the page as well, so that they aren't all just flat. Some of them have actually been raised up a little bit with these foam dots that are quite nice in height. They're not too high, they're quite a low foam dot. They're very similar to the Stampin' Up size dimensionals, which give a really nice little feel. And in the end, I don't end up putting the flowers in the middle there, but looking back at this video, I quite liked them being in that middle section, but I was just thinking that perhaps I was adding a little bit too much to the page and not keeping it simple enough. And I've got a couple of white buttons there that I tried to work onto the page, and I don't end up sticking them down. So just adding some dimensionals to that piece there in the flower jar, and checking out where I'm going to add some things. And now it's time to cut it all up. So I just go really slow and press really firmly with the craft knife so that all of the elements, you know, cut cleanly and not get dragged and ripped. So just firm pressure, going slow, and remember that I've just got the double-sided tape on the other side keeping it together. And yeah, just continuing on. And so there I have a problem with that flare that I have because my ruler is sitting on top of it, so I am not getting a clean enough cut, so I end up having to just take that flare off so that there we go, moving that out of the way so that I can cut the other side nice and evenly. So it's all coming apart, and now these circle elements end up having the cut through them, and it, like I said, it just looked really good actually having the cut lines and the cut marks actually going straight through some of the elements instead of putting the elements already in the cut sections. So it just looks really good. And so there you go, that was one section, that little flower that didn't cut quite well enough, it dragged a little bit, so I just go back later on and put a little bit of wet glue underneath. And so there I need to do the cuts straight down the middle section and right through the word beautiful, smack bang through the end of the U, and the photo moved a little bit, so I just go and put some more sticky on that and get that back down, and so did that side. So it's just a matter of going and sticking the little elements that became unstuck and getting it all back together again, like a little jigsaw puzzle. So I really liked the look of this. It was really nice doing some white on white and, you know, not keeping it really busy, even though I have added some colour to the page as well. And just adding the little flowers that got cut off or fell apart, so just adding those back to the page. And then I'm having a bit of a look and seeing where I can add some little extras, and I end up pulling out some enamel dots or some pretend enamel dots, and this is where I realise that the butterfly is not going to work because the pin or the wire section hangs longer, and I can't cut it, so I end up just putting the flower off the pin and sticking it down with some glossy accents, but it actually broke in half because it has some foam dots in between, so I just add some new ones and stick it back together. So what am I doing now? Trying to work out where I'm going to put that end, and I decide that I like it in the middle, and so I end up moving one of those flare, the cream flare, moving the cream flare to the side, but for now I've just got these enamel dots and they were in white, so I've just added some of those to the page, and then I have these white pearls, and so I'm just adding them to the page as well. And you can't really see them now, but they look really good because they add just a different texture and just a different element to the page. So you will see some close-up soon, and I hope that you have liked this, and I do end up sticking it on a piece of cardstock as well, as I didn't like it in the plastic pocket, so I actually just stuck it back together on a piece of cardstock, but I really like the look of the lines, and you will see that in the stills. And thank you for joining me today, and I will see you next time. Bye!